She believed, like I once did, that a person had to be like Bishop Thomas to become a saint. I told her that she has to discern for herself what God will want her to do with her life and wealth. The radical example is that some people like Bishop Thomas are called to a life of poverty. And I thought of several other Egyptian friends I have who are now monks and have taken to a life of poverty. I told Caroline in some ways it's easier to live a life of poverty by choice because it makes things very black and white. But not everyone lives a life of poverty by choice. And a poor person can't provide for a family. We all have different callings, and in some ways it's much harder to follow Christ's teachings and try to provide for a family in America because it requires living in the gray area of discerning what to do with our wealth and power. Sainthood isn't just for those radical Christians that sacrifice and abandon everything for Christ. Sainthood still belongs to those of us with families and careers, duties and vows, as long as we follow God's leading and teachings and how we use what is given to us. We each here must listen to the Spirit in order that we may discern how to follow Christ in our everyday lives. That is easier said than done, isn't it? Once we begin to believe in the sainthood of all believers and that we can be saints in our normal, mundane lives, sometimes we begin to judge each other and who really is worthy of sainthood. Jesus tells those seeking to follow him in this morning's gospel, "Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves, so be shrewd as serpents and innocent as doves." Sometimes we may judge or condemn another for their vocation or how they choose to follow Christ or their political views. Some of us judge others for being innocent and naive like doves, or some of us may judge others for being shrewd and cunning like serpents. But we forget we're all sheep. To continue this theme of struggling to recognize each other's sainthood, I would like to tell you another story about a saint I met while working at Hillsides. To protect his identity, because he doesn't know I'm telling this story, let's call him Carl. He was in the National Guard and had been deployed in combat in Afghanistan. In our conversations, he made it clear that he had done things he regretted in the course of performing his duty as a soldier. Yet he had a profound Christian faith and was attending Fuller Seminary and working with abused and abandoned kids at Hillsides. In my arrogance, I had determined how a saint should live, and an Afghan war veteran who had killed or tried to kill people didn't qualify in my mind as saint material. Then one evening, we were both doing one-on-ones with clients who were in crisis to make sure they don't hurt themselves or hurt others. To do this, we put the youth in protective separation rooms, which are adjacent to each other. Carl and I began to talk about his military service again, and he told me about being part of the first units deployed to the Superdome and the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. Initially, there were 9,000 evacuees and only 550 National Guardsmen in the Superdome as Katrina came ashore. The number of people taking shelter in the Superdome rose to around 15,000 to 20,000 as search and rescue teams brought more people to the Superdome from areas hit by the hard flooding. Carl told me of the difficulties of trying to keep law and order, especially the first few days. And I did the math, and that's about 20 hungry, depressed, scared, and traumatized people per soldier to try to keep under control and help. He spoke of the water level rising and the fear that the generators would go out, plunging the majority of the refugees into darkness, and the fear and desperation he and his fellow soldiers had as they tried to bring sanity and security and aid in that horrible situation. He expressed it was without a doubt the most difficult and traumatizing thing he had ever done. Yet he did it. He did it to the best of his ability with honor and integrity. He risked his life to save thousands. Carl is a saint with capital letters. He has undoubtedly committed sins just like all of us, but he has also shown great courage and love to complete strangers, both in uniform and as a civilian. A few weeks ago, we heard the story of a tax collector called Zacchaeus. He was despised because he not only worked for the Roman Empire occupying his land, but he also overcharged his neighbors when he was collecting his taxes for his own benefit. His encounter with Jesus transformed him. He repented and gave back what he stole, but he didn't stop collecting taxes, and Jesus didn't tell him to stop collecting taxes. He was transformed by Christ and went back to his day job in the real world. I wish we lived in a world where soldiers and childcare workers at places like Hillsides were jobs that were needed. That world we hope for is called God's kingdom. God is redeeming and healing the world through us because we saints are going back out into our hurt and broken world, just like Zacchaeus. We're going into bars, classrooms, courtrooms, battlefields, and bedrooms. I can't help but wonder if we shame all the saints present and past when we think we aren't worthy of being saints, or judge others as incapable of sainthood. Jesus called everyday people like you and me to follow him. Some left their vocations to follow him, but others had their lives transformed by Christ, and then went back to their lives and jobs and performed their duties to glorify Christ. Jesus called everyone the average Joes, the B team, you and me, to change the world. We are selfish to think it's all about us and whether we believe it's possible. Do we stop to realize that God believes in us? St. Edmund and Abu Safin are speaking to us, saying, I did it and so can you. Jesus had faith his disciples, who were just average people like you and me, could continue his work, and they did. The saints have changed the world. Jesus has faith in us. We are heirs to the work of all